and welcome back to Spacelink TV. We are back today with an awesome satellite image from what first was known as Fields of Titan, but I managed to find it in NASA's catalog again and find the whole area around Fields of Titan, which is called Morphed Valleys. I'm not sure I pronounced it correct, but it is an amazing area. I'm just gonna make a little sound check here. Sound works perfect. We are on a roll today, and I've uploaded it to Gigapan.com, and there should be a link in the video description below to the same Gigapan I'm on here. And as you can see down in the bottom, this is so fresh, and I'm the only one who have added snapshots in the new Gigapan here. So let's have a look at some of all the stuff we have found here on Gigapan. Let's see if I can get it to the beginning here. There is a lot of stuff going on in this Gigapan. Here's a good example. Here's a really good example of it. First sight, it looks like a crater. And it could be, but look at the rocks in the crater, how there's a line going through exactly in the middle. I'm not saying it's any unusual going on here, but this is just one of many pictures where you can sit and think about what are we actually looking at, because what you're looking at here is no more than 10 meters wide, 20 meters wide maximum. So it's not like a huge crater, or to be honest, it don't look like a crater to me. It looks like there once was something there that was round. What could it be? I've wondered often, what did our ancient civilization do? How did they build their constructions, their facilities, and most important of all, where did they build them? Did they build them above ground? Did they build them below ground? This is image is 170,000 pixels tall, so it's a really big image. And again, we are in the middle of a rocky area where there is a lot of rocks. You can see everywhere is rocks. And when you look at some of these rocks, you can see there are some lines. You can see bigger rocks that have been cut into smaller pieces. I don't think that all these rocks that are lying here by coincidence all has been cut up to smaller pieces. It's there's something more to it than just natural coincidence. One of the things I want to show you here was, are we looking at a pond here up on Mars? It looks like you got a little hole with some sand in, and then in the middle there's something that has another color than the sand. Is it due to different variations of sand color, light sand and dark sand we are looking at? Because the dark colored sand up here has the same color as the sand dunes, so I'll expect that to be sandy area, but in here it's a lighter color. And thinking of it as a black and white picture, I haven't looked at the color picture yet, and I do not expect to see blue water on the color picture. But I must admit, it looks a little bit like a pond among all the rocks. Let's zoom out a little bit so you can see what we're talking about. It looks like in the middle of it all, there's a little pond, but I'm not saying it's water, but it definitely looks like it. And what I also wonder about is, when there is so many rocks all over the area, how come is there just suddenly a little area with no rocks in? So isn't that a bit weird? And you can see it's like got a square frame, foundation shape. I think there maybe was something standing there that ain't no more, and this is what was underneath that you're looking at here. Hey Christian, welcome to Spacelink TV. I'm glad to have you with me here. We're looking at Morphed Valleys, one of the areas on Mars that is suspected to be one of the most inhabited places on Mars by ancient civilization that is not there on the surface anymore. And what we're looking at is some of all the leftovers that has been created by our ancestors. I am looking at some of them snapshot I did yesterday. I was up for many hours yesterday. This one I did a snapshot on in the area, because it's like there is this square frame, square thing. First sight it looks like sand dunes down there, but I just wanted to bring it in because of its shape. You're asking probably, are these roads we are looking at on Mars? No, they are not roads like we know it, where we put asphalt on and pave the road. They are connection paths, which this area is thousands and thousands of years old. I do suspect that there was more water on Mars, and some of these paths you are seeing here could be waterways. I've been told before that these are mud cracks, but if you look upon, for example, over here, you can see they're continuing up on elevated areas. So mud cracks don't continue like on elevated areas, or over here like this on a rocky outcrop. That's not possible, not for mud cracks. So we're not looking at a seabed with mud cracks on. This is something else. We know that. We had examples of 3 or 4 of these paths meeting in the same little island, and I have been sitting and following some of them around for hours and hours and hours. And when you do that, it makes sense, because you get through the whole area slowly. And let's just try have a little tour around here on Mars. And you see there is a section here they are crossing over. This is not mud cracks. And by the way, what you're looking at here is a sand dune, and this sand dune is about 20 meters long. So that's the scale we are looking at. So that little crack here would be about 2-3 meters wide. So that's the scale we are looking at. Then there are some of the bigger canals around in the area. Also, we're gonna go through some of them also. I have some snapshots of areas where you can see there's actually rocks lined up out here in these areas. That's why I think they are pathways that are designed to transport blocks out of the area on. And if you'll keep following the video, you'll understand later when we get to some of them places, because this is an amazing satellite image. You can see there has been done so much stonework here. You have areas, and we're going to get to that later also, where there's a lot of triangular stones. You have areas where there's a lot of rectangular stones, and then you have areas where there is a lot of round or rounded stones. And don't tell me that Mother Nature created the triangular rocks in that area and the square rocks on the area to the right, and round rocks at the area at the bottom, because that's not how Mother Nature works. It's clearly to see that there has been done some work in the area over a long time. We are talking a civilization that has been living and working here for thousands of years. The question is, when did they leave? Because you can clearly see they have been there. These pathways has been cleared and kept cleared all the way. And I had an example yesterday that I made a post on Facebook. Let me see if I can find my little wheel again. Not the wheel, but the little stone circle that I posted. Organized circle. That's this one here. Yesterday. Because that's one of them. When you look at this one here, right in the middle, you see all these stones here. Funny enough, they're all the same size. They vary a tiny little bit, but stays within a few centimeters of being the same size. Look at this stone circle. You can see this is built up, not like in symmetry from the inside and out to the in one row, but in circles from the middle and out. And there's up to 4 circles in on this one. Actually, you can see 5 circles on this one. You got the middle in here, you got the first ring, and you got a second ring, you got a third ring, a fourth ring, and on this side here there is a fifth and even the beginning of a sixth ring around it. Are we looking at a stone circle? I think this image here is amazing because it clearly shows that the area is manipulated. These rocks wouldn't be arranged in a circle like this. So I'm asking the question, what are we looking at? Is this just a coincidence or just Mother Nature creating a perfect circle with 6 rings of rocks inside of it also? Look above it. And again, I'll question all this because so many of these rocks are lying up in lines, in straight lines, and if you look at them, funny enough, they all got almost same size. And if you go down and look somewhere else, you see another size and another shape. Down here they are more like polygon shaped and round. Up here we got square blocks. Down here we got square blocks, but set up, arranged, so it's creating a big circle with a smaller circle inside of it that's not centered, and that is a really tricky one. You can see over here there's again a round something circle of rock, and it looks like it's actually sphere shaped, like it's bigger, it's not just on the surface. So this is an interesting area. This one actually looks like in the middle that it's a multiple layer on top that is actually going up, that we are looking at something that's raised or elevated in the middle, which makes it interesting because there has been theories of ancient civilization that had domes on Mars. Is that what was underneath a dome? Let's imagine the dome is gone, the roof is gone, it's destroyed, it's been left for 5,000 years, it's completely gone, nothing left. There's only rocks and foundation left. Now, no plastic, no metallic, no, only rocks left. I think this is what we will be looking at. This is so organized on the ground in a circle that it cannot be a coincidence. And as I said before, we got so many of these straight cut rocks where all the rocks are cut up in same size blocks all the way, and the way they are lined up. I'm gonna get back to this circle again because this should be a breakthrough in ancient civilizations theories on Mars, because this is not possible. This is definitely a constructed area, a manipulated area. And I measured it. This circle here is about 20 meters long. From I measured it from this side and to over here where the ring kind of runs is 20 meters, and with this little thing on the top attachment here is about 25 meters wide. So it's not a tiny little thing, but it's not a hangar-sized object either. So it's on size with an average little house, just completely round. So it's really, really interesting, and it really keeps me going. If we look down in the area again, you can see the way all these rocks are cut. It's not that they are different angles or sizes or shapes, but it's that they all are lying in rows, and you see that almost perfectly lying rows that sometimes even has angles to it. And I'm like, while I'm just sitting and saying that, look at this, wow, here. To me, I know these are rocks that are here, but I can't help think of agriculture having a field of a kind, and you're going up and down with your plow and creating a pattern that you actually can see on Google Earth if you zoom in. This reminds me a little bit, but this is not agriculture. This is a rocky area, and I do believe that every little black line you see here in between the rocks are created for a person or a being to go in there with whatever tools they need to take whatever rock they need out, lift it up, bring it out. Don't ask me how they do it, because I wouldn't know. What did they do on Mars for 6,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago? I bet you they had technology that that we'll never understand. Hello to Laird. Hello and welcome to Spacelink TV. We are on Mars today, and I got my live chat open. So if you want to ask anything, please feel free to use the live chat here on YouTube. I would love to go into a dialogue about what we could be looking at. So please comment, tell me what you think we are looking at. I'm just gonna have a little sip of my coffee. Coffee is good, warm coffee is better. But yeah, all the patterns we see here, they are not natural. And I was told that it is mud cracks, but mud cracks are not going through a giant rock. If I tell you this area we're looking at here, let's take this little one, follow the arrow here and take everything in it. This whole block was one piece of rock. One piece of rock. And I think what was going on here is you have found an area with specific kind of rocks that are useful, that are easy to work with, and therefore you have used that area for thousands of years to take whatever you need for your constructions wherever you need it. And what you're looking at is, again, oh, and I just gotta show you this again. Look at this circle here. If you look closely right here, I can't get any closer, unfortunately. Again, you see this symmetrical, and you see circles like this, and again you can see all the lines of rows, straight lines of rows, carefully placed with space between all of them. So what does that tell us? It tells us that those who mined the area had some kind of technology. And without being a sci-fi freak or completely off it, remember Star Wars, where Luke Skywalker is using his lightsaber to cut hole through the blasting doors. And I'm thinking something kind of similar, something that could melt rock instantly to carve. And they would send their slaves out to carve the whole area, give them tools to do that, and within a few hundred years you would have a huge area like this. And I'm gonna zoom out again just to show you the size of it again here. The whole area is a mining area for rocks and blocks, and I am gonna show you places in a few minutes where you can see they have actually removed the blocks where they're gone. And you actually have an area here, because don't you wonder about, you got rocks all over here, nicely carved up, but there's nobody right here. That's because they're gone. They used it. So this is an amazing area, and as I said about these black lines here, I believe they are ancient canals used to transport blocks in from A to B or wherever. Wherever they needed them. And remember, when I said they had technology, yes, they had technology, but I do also believe that it was a slave race who mined, did all the mining, did all the quarrying. And of course, they were giving advanced tools like laser technology to cut rocks with, but they weren't giving tools that were advanced enough for them to break free, if you understand what I mean. So they were kind of forced to work, and that was their life. They were a working labor force for the higher race that was on Mars. So they had all these tools they could basically carve out the whole area with and transport them around. So I believe when they had chopped out a rock, they had some kind of technology to move that block. They didn't have technology to take a craft and fly away with it or exit Mars atmosphere. That's over the limitations of technology for what they could have. But they have technology enough to move rocks and move blocks. And just thinking of Edward Leskelin that did the Coral Castle and how he did it, and all we know was that he had this mysterious box and he had the copper threads. He turned around spent around the blocks. That's all we know. So what his secret was and how he removed the whole coral castle is still for some people unknown. But we know one thing we know so far. It's about sound and it's about vibration. And he did something with a whistling sound, and that created some kind of frequency that lifted the rocks up, so he could move tons heavy block with no problems. And he did. He moved the whole castle that way, one man. And I think that's kind of the same technology they had here. They can use it to move blocks with and create statues and whatever they need to create, but they can't use the technology to break free or conquer an empire or anything. That's useless for that. So they had technologies available, but it was technology that the owners that gave them it had benefits of giving them without them being able to break free. Look at the area, it's amazing. And again, I spoke about all these straight lines of row everywhere. All these rocks here along this black line, I believe they are ready to be shipped. They're ready, they're lying here just waiting for the whatever anti-gravity mechanism they have on the, so they can push them down the road or up where they want to ship them to. You've got to remember there was water on Mars, and there are probably have been some rivers in the nearby area also. So this, I'm actually suspecting this to be an old riverbed running through here. So there's a lot of opportunities on Mars. But again, let's go around in the area and have a look at this amazing area. Again, as I'm talking about, everything is chopped up in straight lines and boxes, and I am gonna have to click on some of my snapshot links here to find it all. Now this is what I mentioned before about the canals here, what I believe is canals to be transportation pathways for whatever they have mined in the area. If you look down on the pathway, there are some blocks here, but if you look on the side here, there are big blocks, there are smaller blocks, there are some smaller blocks, there are bigger blocks, some bigger blocks, and lots of different sizes. But all the blocks that are down on this pathway are all similar sized, which tells me also that they are probably been left there ready because they needed like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 blocks, same size for a building or construction somewhere, and it has to be this size. So 10 of them are already ready to be shipped off. I know it sounds a bit far-fetched, but you gotta find a reason for why you got 10 blocks, same size, lying out there waiting. And when you're looking on the ground, it's all different sizes of blocks. So could there be a reason for like 10, 11, or how many there would be here, of them being the same size and the only ones lying on the path? I think they were left there ready to pick up, move on, and then something happened and they are still lying there, and we can see it from a satellite. Because in general, all the pathways are cleared. As you can see, there ain't anything on it. I can't get any closer on this Gigapan here, but we are more than close enough. So if we follow them around, you can see there is a kind of logic to it when you follow it around. Oh, and Light asking of the scale of what we are looking at. The scale of what we are looking at. Let me go back to... let me just close this one here and go back, and I'll give you and show you that again. Because I measured it on the JP2 tools software NASA provides us with. This circle you can see here, as I had up before, you can see there is this amazing stone circle, and there's like a star formation inside of it, not centered, but there is a kind of a formation inside it, and it looks pretty much organized in a circle. It is from here to here, oh sorry, from here to here, 25 meters. 25 meters, 10 meters is 32.8 feet, so it's about 70 feet wide, just about 70 feet wide, I would say. 70 feet, something like that. 25 meters, and you times that with 3.2, and you got it in feet. So that's the size we're looking at. Now remember the size I just told you, 25 meters, and keep looking at that area, 25 meters. I'm gonna zoom out now. So that gives you, and you can't even see it anymore, that gives you a little estimation of the size of the picture. This area here is bigger than the island Sealand I live on, and that's 100 kilometers across. This area is bigger. So this is a huge area we are looking at here. We got again back to 25 meters, and this is the closest we can get. So it is interesting, and I'm so fascinated by this circle here, because it tells us there was an ancient civilization here, and that is some of the leftovers we can find. A round circle here, really well organized, along with all those straight lined pile lines of rocks all over. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit and take you down a little bit here, because there are so many different areas. I'm gonna show you a weird one here saying cracked open, and I'm just gonna zoom out a little bit before I zoom in again here. It's not to confuse you or stress you out, it's to show you the area we're looking at. What you're looking at here is down on the floor, if you can say so. This is on top, this is a sand dune. From here to here you go down, it's going down, and you are at the bottom here. So what you're looking at here is flat area. There are rocks on it, but in general a flat area. What you're looking at here is an elevated rocky area over here. The size of it, the height of it, I'm not sure about it, but it's probably 30, 40, 50 meters high here. It's not a mountain, it's an elevated rocky area. So we are looking at something here that's like above ground. This is ground level, this little one here, and all the way out here, all this in here, that's ground level. These are rocks and cliffs, so you are up an elevated area. Now I'm gonna zoom in. Now you understand the area what we are looking at, and I'm gonna zoom in. If you look at this corner here, it looks like there is an edge here, and it actually looks like that it fits with this above it, like some kind of opening, and I gave it a text called cracked open. That's because so I can remember what I was talking about or meant. And remember again, we're looking straight down from above. So it looks like there has been an opening here in this area or something, or was this one of them areas that could actually open up? We all know the story about S4, Area 54, and secret openings in the on the mountainsides that you can't see from the outside because they are camouflaged. What if we are looking at the same here? From here to here is about 35 meters. Times that with 3.2 when you got it in feet. So you got about 100 feet here. That's the size of it. So now that we're looking straight down, we're looking at an edge here that's not matching up with the edge on top of it. It actually looked like the edge on top of it has been pushed in. Like if you take a cardboard box and punch it so it breaks, you'll see the top of it might go inside the box and be hanging in there. It's kind of like a little weird one, and I'm gonna work on that one. Next to this one here is another good anomaly, because we're looking at rocks and the shape of rocks. Look at this cut there is in this rock here. You got not completely 90 degrees, but very close, and then you got a round cut on the edge here. So two different kind of cuts. Look at the shape of this rock. Let's see how close we can get. Look at this corner here. That's a rounded corner. How can that be? You got edges here, you got 90-degree angles, you got round cutouts, and then you got a round corner here also. It tells me there's a little bit more to it than we think. And it tells me that somebody has been chopping blocks off, like they tried to here. That little block here was a part of this block. They chopped it up. It might not have the exact right measurements, so they left it, and somebody that needs a block that is a little bit smaller can use that to for another time. They left it. It's leftovers. And then you got this round edge coming here that tells you that somebody have had some kind of technology to create those shapes, to cut blocks out like that. It is an amazing area we're looking at, and a lot of rocks can tell a lot of history, because rocks is not necessarily always just rocks. Now look again here, we got these lines and squares and blocks of rocks again. Another good example, one rock that has been chopped out to multiple rocks. And now that you look over here, you can see there's something missing there. But it is amazing to sit and see how all these rocks has been chopped in pieces and chopped out, and there's a distance between them, which means that somebody have moved them when it was done. And remember, I'll give you a good example of a human size. What is human size? Can we see a human size being on a satellite image like this? Let me say so. If you wear the biggest sombrero hat you can find, then that little dot there would be about a 2 meter wide or 1 meter wide sombrero Mexican hat. So no, you wouldn't be able to see a human. If you saw a human from above, straight up and down, you will see a black dot if the person has black hair, or if it's a color picture, whatever. But you will just see a dot, and you wouldn't be able to make out a human out of that dot unless you knew that it was for some reason. So no, you cannot see humans. What you can see is if you have a group of people together, you would be able to see the group of people, but I don't think most people would be able to recognize beings on a satellite image on Mars. We have no pre-knowledge about places on Mars where we know there are beings. We haven't had pictures like that. We could have had without knowing it, but I'm not looking for beings on pictures. I'm not looking for animals, and I am definitely not looking for small men or beings or Martians on any kind of pictures from Mars. I'm looking for rocks. I'm looking for constructions. I'm looking for the big stuff. I'm looking for the evidence that is in what we can see on a satellite image. Like on this area, it's clear to see here's an area that's modified. There is a little edge here down here. There's a little downfall. You can see it's got like an arch to it, and rocks lined up nicely up to it. That's not natural. And I can keep on going on and on and on for hours on this Gigapan here. And there's a comment here from Light saying the circle seems same size as similar man-made object on Earth. Yeah, it's about the same size. So we have a little I live on a four-sided farm here, and we have a little yard in the middle, and that's about 25 meters. So I could imagine that being the size of the yard I have out here. So yeah, that's Earth-sized objects, and I think that Stonehenge is a little bit bigger than 20. I think that's 40 or 60 meters wide. I'm not quite, I don't remember that exactly, but I have been there Stonehenge multiple times, many times, so I know Stonehenge is a bit bigger than what we're looking at here, probably twice the size. But it is an interesting area. And GA is asking, how do we know they're not still there? We don't. That's the thing. Until we find the evidence of them still being there, we don't. And that's what we're looking at here. We are trying to find the evidence of what once was on Mars. Here's another little good one. Remember, we're looking straight down from above. Does anybody tell me what this is here? Because if you look at that rock on top, you can see the shadow on the top side, which means the sun is coming from this direction here. Yeah, the sun is coming from not down the corner here, but about 1/4 up on the left side over the middle. So this either have to be two objects where the shadow here in the middle is created by the first object, but the first object don't seem to be much bigger than the top object, so I don't understand where this shadow is or black thing is coming from. And to be honest, it looked like something on its way out of the ground, but you can't say that out loud. But it's another interesting one. But yeah, GA, we don't know if they're still there. I got a feeling they're still there. They Mars lost its atmosphere. Mars also lost its magnetosphere, which means that radio what do you call it? Active, not radioactive. Yeah. Anyway, the rays from outer space. Sorry about my English. The rays that comes from outer space ain't deflected or shielded off like it used to, which makes it probably really a hard job for biological being on this actual surface for a longer time at the time. So I do believe they are underground. I definitely wouldn't be above ground with on a planet with a very little magnetosphere and atmosphere. When it comes to the atmosphere, you can have oxygen tanks. You can have you can get oxygen and air out of water on the North Pole and the South Pole. That wouldn't be an issue. It would be the radiation from outer space. That was the word I was looking at before. Radiation that you can't shield yourself up against unless you're wearing a lead suit, and that's probably gonna be tiring in the long run. Let's move on, because we got so much interesting areas here, and just a funny little outcrop shapes. Look at this one here. It's like it got a straight cut down and a straight shape is block is missing, and a flat bottom surface here as well, which tells us that if they had the technology to chop out big blocks, then this is probably one of the places where they took a big chunk off. You can see it's almost straight, and the bottom is straight here as well, and it's a funny little one. There's a lot of things to think about on these gigapans. But as I said before, this gigapan is so big that you can't finish it in an hour or 2 or 3, so we're just gonna surf around here. And I got a few snapshots done here the other day. There was another stone circle, a tiny little one. Again, I'm not sure it's a stone circle, but again, that is really good evidence of modified rocks, which you can clearly see that here we have one rocks that's been chopped up into multiple pieces with some kind of not perfect symmetry, but with some kind of symmetry into it. But it's clearly to see that the rock there has been definitely cut up, and notice the straight lines in the middle. So definitely, yeah, it's a manipulated area we are looking at. And there are so many of these anomalies here. It's amazing, and I do urge you to go and have a look at the Gigapan, because you won't be able to stop within an hour when you first start looking. So, and you let's say the Stonehenge is about the main circle 40 meters across. I remember it as bigger. I would like to Google that one. I do remember it as bigger, but if you are right on that, that means that this one would be bigger than the one we had before would be bigger than Stonehenge. So if you could just go in and Google the size of Stonehenge and see what size exactly it has in diameter, that would be perfect, and we could match it up with the stone circle here on Mars, the other one we had before. I have an area here, and again, I had this one coming up yesterday evening, and it looks the same all over, blocks, 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 blocks. But what I'm talking about is, look how they are all same shape. Here you got all rectangular blocks. I'm gonna take you to another area where all the blocks are triangular, or trying to be cut triangular. You do find a few blocks that's not rectangular here, but the whole area is like, you got a collection here of similar shape of rock. Here's a big one that actually broke. This is a good example. If you look at that rock here, there's a big rock and it's actually broke a corner off, and you can see how a crack looks like. It's like zigzagging. It's not perfect, and you can see it's cracked up, which tells us that all these are not cracked up. These are the work of somebody who been there and chopped it all off for use later. We do have lots of places in this Gigapan where we can find black areas where there was rocks, and you can just ask yourself, where are they now? Well, that was the rocks that were used, and I think this was a big rock industry, if you can say so, for basically supplying most of the planet with whatever they needed in rocks from here. Remember how they did with the pyramids on Earth? We got them from a little bit away and transported the rocks to the pyramids. How we did it, I'm not going to talk about that because it's going to start me on another one here. But we have had rocks transported worldwide to different projects with different kinds of rocks, and I think it worked exactly the same way when we are talking about Mars. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit and take you down a little bit here, because I want to find one of them black areas, and I got one. I just need to refine it. As I said, this is a huge area. Let's just see. And then again we got areas full of blocks, and then we got these small areas here with no blocks in at all. And another thing I would like to show you later also is that some of the sand dunes, we're gonna get into that. I'm looking for a specific hole here. Some of the sand dunes, when you look at them, they actually have what looks to be like big rocks on top of the sand dunes. But if they are on top of the sand dunes, how did they get on top? Because sand dunes are moving in time and space, so rocks wouldn't get on top of a sand dune unless it's placed there, or unless it's not rocks at all. See, this Gigapan is so big, I now have a hard time finding what I'm looking for. It's so huge. But again, here's another good example. I spoke about these areas. You got rocks all over the area. Cut rocks, shaped rocks, you got triangular rocks, round rocks, blocks, and then you got an area here with no rocks in. I'm just asking the question, where are they, the rocks? Where are all the rocks that was here? Because I believe the whole area was covered with rocks. It was not like God created Mars and put rocks all over, but he just kept 20 times 20 meters free here because he might use it for later. No. It's clear to see that somebody removed the rock in that area, the rocks. It's totally dried out. It's sand underneath. How close can we go here? See, all these rocks, they're gone. There are only a few left in here. So what happened here? That's a good question. See, this is one of my favorite holes also. You can see there's a duct into it here, and there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 walls that I've been told is sand dunes, but they are down in a hole. I don't believe that the wind would be so technological advanced that it would create a wind creating 5 sand dunes down in a hole standing upright. No, they would just create a pile of sand in the bottom of the hole. That's how craters gets filled up. They it just blows in there, and on the big plains you can have sand dunes that comes when the move that don't sand dunes don't move around down in holes. But notice just on top of it, all them rocks here, all them rocks, and this is what I said, they're all chopped and carved. Look at this 1, 2, 3 here. They are definitely from the same block. But I'm gonna ask you a question. Where's the one that was here? Is that the one here? Because this one looks like with that little line on it, like it fitted in here. So how did this one get over there? That's so many questions. You can see clearly that it's one rock that's been chopped out. We can get a little bit closer here. And as I said, this one was probably behind this one as well. And it's amazing to do a little bit of astroarchaeology by looking at rocks, because rocks are rocks. And some of the rocks are just boring rocks, but when you can see they have been altered, they have been modified, they have been moved, they have been removed, then you start waking up and thinking, how is that possible? Because there's nothing on Mars. But that's clear, there was a civilization on Mars. They were advanced, they had the same need for materials as we have on our day, modern Earth. The need for materials, the need for building supplies has always existed. I think that sex, alcohol, and building supplies, one of the few things that always has been in business since we came to this planet. So. And again, these amazing canals here, I can sit and follow them for hours and hours and see where they lead us. And again, I was told these were mud cracks, but look how these mud cracks then goes up in an elevated area and continues and connect to another road where it stops. It doesn't continue. There's a new one coming over on this side here, but it doesn't continue. It stops there. So we can sit and follow all these roads just like on Google Maps. And I remember with my wife Dolly Indigo Star how many times we've been out in South England on the Dartmoor. And we've been sitting and looking at Google Earth where we wanted to go and find some interesting things. And we can see the path where we were sitting and planning our way into a nature reserve via Google Earth, and the pathways we could see from the Google Earth satellites, and this is giving me some kind of déjà vu from what we did on Dartmoor. And this is just on another planet, but there's not really any difference. Dartmoor was just as rocky as this area is, and somewhere on Dartmoor you still have mining, you still have quarries. We could walk in some of the old quarries, and if you took a drone and flew it up and took a picture, this would be what you were looking at. And this is what we got on Mars. We are looking at an ancient quarry site. You can even see the pathways. Here's a good example of, you can see the edges, how the pathways have been cleared and kept cleared. Straight edges. These are leaning just up to the pathway, ready to go. You can see it's expanding here a little bit. So you could imagine that around here somewhere would be where they bumped the blocks in there. Imagine if you have water there and you can take a 10-ton block, throw it into a dry dock with no water in, mount balloons on it, water balloons, not like flying balloons, but water balloons to keep it raised. I don't know what they're called in English actually, but they are these massive rubber ones that really are hardcore. You can't break them. 5 of them in each side, and you have 10 tons floating. So if you have a dry dock, you can simply just push your rock into the dry dock, mount your floating balloons on it, and open the water, and the 10-ton of rock block of rock would be floating on, 5-6 ropes around it with these lifting balloons in. So the technology to move rock is simple if you got the space for it. If you ain't got the space for it, it's impossible. And in this case, you can see there is like an expansion. It's getting wider in some areas, and I suspect that is a loading and unloading zone where the logistic of what product they come up with started from being transported away. So there's also a theory of that, if I zoom out a little bit, in an area like this where there is elevated areas, that you could fill water in from your canals from top, and in that way you can have like a water slide, and which would make it easier to, not a water slide with 2 centimeters of water, but I mean like a river where the water is kind of like going your direction for the transportation of blocks, controlled water. I don't know how to pronounce it in English, but that's another way of transporting, but just a theory, and it's not a bad theory. And then we have, again, as I said, rocks, carved rock everywhere, and then we get areas like this. And this is not a crater as such, because a crater, it takes quite an amount of power and energy to create a crater. And this one ain't more than 15-20 meters wide. So you could get these areas just suddenly appears with a smooth surface on, and what was in here? But Mars is an amazing place. Oh, and like I said, it was from Google, so 14 meters across. That means that the stone circle we're looking at on Mars, let me get it back, actually would be twice the size of Stonehenge. Well done, that's good research, and that's how we do it. We'll look it up, we'll check our facts. So I was wrong, that was right. So this is actually twice the size of Stonehenge. That's or bigger, not twice the size, but bigger than Stonehenge, half time bigger than Stonehenge. So that's a good way of comparing our Earth monuments on with what we see on Mars. And again, this is an amazing picture. Thank you for bringing that one up again. I like it, this picture here, because it's really, for those that didn't see it in the beginning, shows us there is an organization in the way the rocks has been put here. You can see it, they are organized nicely and neat, and there's like a wheel within the circle, the spinning. It's the big question is, could it be something else than rocks that we're looking at here? Imagine, the reason I say that is if you look at these white ones here, it actually looks like small round one, where the darker one looks more edgy shapes, square. Could you imagine a Boy Scout camp with 200 dome-shaped tents in white? Just imagine that. In that matter, there is another picture I have on my computer I would like to share with you also, that shows us from the desert in Sahara some huge tents where there are people sitting underneath the tents. You can see how big they are. But when you see it, you also see what look like sand dunes on Mars. So when you see that picture, next time you see a sand dune on Mars, you will be thinking, sand dune, my bare ass. Oh, sorry, I didn't say that. I do apologize, but I believe there are so much fakery going on to hide the truth with the pictures on Mars. And again, here's I had that one up yesterday also. There seems to be like a hole into the ground down here, and again an area where the rocks are gone from. On mysterious way, there's no rocks in those few square meters there, and it's right next to one of them pathway lines here. See. That's one of the few lines where there's actually still something in it. You can see there's something on the pathway here. So what I'm thinking is, if this was an operational area this size, I mean this is 100 kilometers tall, the pictures, then there gotta be some machinery somewhere left over. There gotta be something somewhere. So when I found that circle I found yesterday, we just saw there was half time bigger than Stonehenge. That's the kind of evidence I want to find some more of. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna urge you guys to click on the Gigapan link in the description. Go in, find some anomalies, use the snapshot function in it so you can save it and show it and share a direct link. And you can post it on Mars Moon Space group on Facebook if you want my attention about it. Tag my name in it. You can comment on it on the Spacelink TV page on Facebook also. There's a debate going in there also, or you can simply just comment here on YouTube. But I would love to get into socialized dialogue about Mars on Facebook. So if you want to use the Gigapan and take some snapshots, please use the Facebook group Mars Moon Space. And tag me in it if you want my opinion about what you think you found, and we'll have a look at it, because there are so much in this Gigapan that needs to be looked at. And I have been on here soon for a good hour soon here, and it has been great. And I can feel if I ain't gonna cut the live feed now, I would be one of them guys who sits and do live all night, and I don't want to be that today. So, thank you guys for watching. The Gigapan is huge. If you go in and click on it on the video description, save it on the computer, that'll give you work for the next many months. And if anybody think they have seen it all, they are the ones that needs to learn. Thank you for watching, and until we see again, take care. Bye.